Jagrat kurma samashrita bhagavati Tvamam samalokaya
Mamso ganda kukunda dosha jaditam Vedadikaryanvitam Svalpa svamala chandra koti kiraner Nityam shariram kuru
Siddharti nijadosha visalakati Vyajiyate viraya Kundaya kula marga mukta nagari Maya kumarga shriya
Yadyevam bhajati prabhata samaye Madhyana kale tava Nityam yakula kundali japapadam Bojam sasidho bhavet
Vanvakasha chaturdale tivimale Panchavalon mulake Nityam samprati nitya deha gatita Sanketita bhavita
Vidya kundala manini svajanani Maya kriya bhavyate Yeshte sira kulodvave pranatibi Satstodra keshambubi
Tata Shankara Mohini Tribhuvana Chaya Patodgamini Samsaradi Mahasukha Praharani Tatra Stita Yogini
Sarva Granti Vibedini Svabhujaga Sukshmati Sukshma Para Brahmayana Vinodini Kulakuti Vyaghatini Bhavyate
Vande Shri Kula Kundalin Trivalipi Sange Swayambhu Priyam Pravishtam Varamaratita Chapalam Bala Bala Nishkalam
Ya Devi Paripati Veda Vadana Sambhavani Tapini Ishtanam Shirasi Svayambhuvanitam Shambhavayami Kriyam
Vani Koti Murtanga Nanda Mandana Nishveni Koti Rani Pranesi Rasharasi Mula Kamalo Lase Kapurnanana
Ashado Bhava Megaraji Janita Dvantananastayini Mata Saparipatu Sukshma Padaga Mam Yoginam Shankari
Tvama Shri Janara Vrajanti Sahasa Vikunda Kailasayor Anande Kavilasinin Shashishata Nandananam Karanam
Mata Shri Kula Kundali Priyakale Kali Kalodipane Tatstanam Paramami Bhadravanite Mamudharatvam Pashun
Kundali Shakti Margasta Stotrasraka Mahafalam
Yap Pativratutaya sayogi bhavati dhruvam.
Shana deva hipatena kavina to bhaveviya. Pavitra kundali yogi pramalino bhavenman.
Ite te katitam nata kundali komalam stavam. Etat stotra prasadena deveshu guru gishvati.
Sarvade sasidiyuta shastotra prasarata. Dviparam tam chiranjeevi
Brahma Sarvasureshwaraha, Brahma Sarvasureshwaraha, Brahma Sarvasureshwaraha.
Just sit and close our eyes just a little bit. Rest of that beautiful chant. So here we are. So what we've been doing. Is Ulysses on by chance? Yeah. Maybe not, yeah. It was on early this morning. So, since for the summertime we've been focusing on, let me get that. Like that. Why don't you guys share your experience after we did that beautiful piece of work last week? You and Elizabeth, right when we did that? Yeah. Great. Now you're taking something like just describe. What's the play? Ad lib, right?
So,
I'll crush it. We've been working right. During the summertime, usually we don't do individual pieces. We've been doing that in order to as a group feel explicitly the opening of that archetypal dimension, the different dimensions of the field beyond simply the Namanikaya level ordinary experience, opening up the archetypical dimension and that's what we've been doing. And the mic's a little loud here. And so last week, both Skip and Elizabeth did a piece of work that was really, really fruitional. So I'm just asking them to comment on it a bit. Trying to situate us back in space and time. And maybe you can just lower number 2 down a little bit. Thank you.
so one aspect was during it,
Okay.
and Elizabeth shared first. And normally when someone shares, I try and dive into that experience. But I wanted to hold on to my own. So how would I put it? I let Elizabeth's experience touch me without shifting where I was. So I could have both. And that actually made the intensity of what I was experiencing increase. And then,
Simultaneous.
yes, simultaneous.
Experiences, you experience it simultaneous.
And then the experience I was having was so, again, I can't find words for it. Just had me at the brink of my capacity to stay with it. And holding Elizabeth's experience intensified that aspect even more. And then after the sharing, the intensity stayed unchanged. And because I was in fire, then the wind came in, then the, sounds strange, but the earth opened up beneath me.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
The ground opened.
yeah.
Ground awareness. You feel like ground opening.
And then I just went into it, still at the brink of being able to stay with what was happening, because so much was happening at the same time that capacity to process it was being exceeded. I don't know how to describe it.
Okay, great. And after the fact, was there some remains from that experience? Did something remain for you over time? Was there some continuation?
Yes, describing it's what I'm trying to stay with. I'd kind of say the simultaneousness of everything really hasn't shifted.
What does that mean? The simultaneous of everything hasn't shifted? Just stay with your experience, and because we articulate out of our experience.
So, at one level, it's being completely in the body, completely in Namanikaya, completely in that beautiful darkness Elizabeth was describing, being in the vortex, all at the same time.
The three dimensions simultaneous.
I wish I could say all the time, but periods keep coming back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being so porous, there's almost no self, and having more self in some ways than I've ever had. Having the, I don't know how to describe this. So one of the experiences last week was sensing everyone in the room extending to me while simultaneously I was extending back, and then there being no difference between any of that while the difference remained. And then the inside, outside was there, wasn't there, it's all at the same time. It's just simultaneous.
One level difference, another level no difference, simultaneous. And what it keeps elaborating is the key word simultaneous. Is the simultaneous. And the simultaneous, just as mind knows forms, and mind knows differences, and mind knows individuals, and awareness knows being. When there's the simultaneous of that experience, then we experience being in the beings. Let's have Elizabeth share her experience.
Well, I laughed when you asked, Rudy, because I'm not sure that I had been as aware this week, but as I sat with it just now, one of the things that was true for me is I don't think I'd ever experienced so much ground, being such an air person. It was really beautiful and a new experience for me to go that deep into the ground.
I'll make a tiny comment with you. When you read texts or you hear people talk about ground awareness, it sounds like a theoretical construct, right?
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it's a very phenomenological experience.
Yes.
So most of the stuff you read in some of these texts, these non-dual texts, like certain, not all Dzogchen, not all of anything, but some of these texts are on ground awareness. It is not a theoretical construct. They don't think theoretically.
Right.
It is a phenomenological description of the event.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So
Yes, and that this was that phenomena. I was just both in the complete potential space and feeling so rooted in my beingness, but in a way that was so not fixated in any way.
now, that's a beautiful phrase. Not fixated in any way. That is liberation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Continue, yes.
yeah, and so what I realized without having connected the two this week has been a capacity to work with the intensity of my emotional body
Mm-hmm.
and have choice to be able to ride those waves and feel the ground and feel the lack of needing to attach to any meaning, any of it, and to be clear about action.
Cool. So he just described a really profound. There is the experience of being without meaning, and yet clarity with action.
Yes.
Simultaneous.
Yes. Yeah.
So the yogi described how knowledge is action. And some of the Shaivite masters was that knowledge is action, and they bypass that knowledge is meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear that, it's quite,
Mm.
and there is simply an action that arises spontaneously that is fits the situation, but it's not figuring out anything.
And I just
Pretty cool.
had the experience with Mr. Ma this morning. In that my emotional body was fully activated when I came in, and he had us. He used the word chakra today, which I don't usually hear him say, and just having that capacity to go back through the energetic system and feel that ground again. It just shifted my experience completely and brought me back into that space of clarity and not being buffeted around by the winds around me.
Thank you so much. So we'll just sit again for a few moments. I'm trying to go this way or that way or this way this morning. I think I'm going to read a little bit from the paper we read a couple of weeks ago. So I was going to go back into the unconscious, the cosmological unconscious, as a Sambhogakaya realm that connects us to pure potentiality, ground awareness, and ordinary life, right? That intermediate area of the archetypes, because we're all learning together to be able to be instruments, because we can enter into the different dimensions to work with people to help bring forth the archetypal dimension, because the archetypal dimension is more primary, or it's simultaneous as being in the world and the flesh, but it's a more profound way of working. And also been focusing a bit on text. This doesn't mean you have to be a Buddhist or this or that, but a lot of these texts are ways of invoking that dimension. You don't need a text to do it, but the text has lineage behind it, right? It has energy behind it. It was just a chunk of words, who cares? But if there's energy behind it, we're actually practicing, learning to invoke and bring forth this dimension, not self, which is the archetypal. But I'm going to go back, given what was said this morning in simultaneous, and go back to this paper, if you guys don't mind. It's very short. The mind as the knower of forms, and the awareness as the knower of being. And this metaphor you will see from Plato at times, the nous and psyche. You will see it and the alchemical traditions, the moon and the sun. And part of our basic theme, we sometimes we make it more explicit, is the moon is not the sun. And when you actually know that, and you contemplate it, and you feel that, it gives us freedom, to know whether we're located simply in the moon, or we're located in the rays of the sun, and the moon and the sun enter union. The mysterious conjunctio in both the Jungian thinking and Dzogchen and the elements is the union of the moon and the sun in our own bodies. Say yes if you guys. And when we take that, it really helps us. No matter what's happening, we feel this grounding of the luminous awareness. So I'm going to read this now again. So we have two ways of knowing. Actually, we have a billion ways of knowing. So all this is metaphors. We have two ways of knowing. Our mind, the moon knows forms and things. It knows it both very subtle and very gross. Faces, hands, buildings, trees, math formulas. The mind knows subject, and the mind knows otherness. The mind knows dualities. Skip was talking about the differences. The mind knows differences, The mind knows me, and the mind knows you. The mind knows us, and the mind knows them. The mind knows this and that. And that is really, as Heraclitus said, absolute duality and absolute non-duality. That's this world. So differences are here. I was listening to I love the award system given yesterday when President Obama gave out the American awards. All these great people, scientists, singers. It was great. And he was talking about this magic of experiencing oneness with indifferences. He's in really great spirits right now. he's leaving that job, and he's very happy. But it was the differences, all these differences, and yet this is oneness coming here.
I don't know if I missed something, but I don't associate the moon with the mind. So what is the origin of that connection?
The moon and the mind are connected throughout mythology. The moon is connected, like in astrology, in archetypical astrology, the most common is the moon is the mind. And so where the moon is where is the nature of your mind and the type of thing. And where the sun is really the nature of the self in the thing. But you go back in Tibetan Buddhism, for instance, in Dzogchen, Sems and Semde. Sems is your mind, and Semde is awareness. And in the Kagyu traditions, in the new translation, that gets very blurred. Mind means this and mind means that. It's not as explicit, the difference. Or they speak about the nature of mind. But in the Nyingma traditions, the Ode traditions, goes back to the Bon traditions and goes back to the influences that brought that there. The mind is thinking, feeling, sensation, memory, and the awareness or the primordial self is Semde. And as we all know, there's a transition. We go from being located in mind alone, and that is what we consider the self. I consider myself my mind. Or for many of us, we consider the self part of our mind, like just my affects or myself. My feeling is myself, right? Or my thought is myself. But as things progress, or to say it another way, first of all, we're often located in mind, in the mind alone, right? Or a function of the mind. Say we're very fixated, and we really have obsessive compulsive fixation. So we're in our thinking function alone, right? Or an intellectual thinking function alone. Or say we're very emotional, and we're in our affects alone. Or say we're very sensation, more please, more, than we're in a sensation. So we can be located in a function and the mind, but we're not really. Awareness is completely unconscious for many of us, okay? As we develop. And then one day we start to become aware of our mind. That's a big jump. So you have to have some awareness to become aware of the mind. Then we begin to experience the difference. That space starts to open up, okay? At this moment, consciousness becomes more expansive, okay? And then, so I'm beginning to experience the sun, and I can experience the mind, but I'm still viewing the mind. Then we take another step and we start to become aware of awareness, right? I know we say this 1,000 times, but it's easy to miss it. Then we become aware of the awareness, and at that moment, awareness is gazing into awareness, huh? That is a big step. At that moment, the field of being begins to radiate, because being and knowingness are the same. Now, as we stay there in that awareness of awareness long enough, we start to learn mastery of awareness. We start to feel the resonance through awareness, right? I can see you, but actually I'm experiencing the resonance with you, Karen, very directly at this moment. Just feel it opening as it's at the level of awareness. And as I stay with this, I'm doing it simultaneously. So part of the art, right? You go into awareness, and then you must integrate your mind and body in it, right? Because if you don't, you'll just be in luminous darkness and won't be able to drive your car around. So it is the simultaneousness of the mind and awareness that gives us the power. Okay. So as my mind, so I'm in awareness now. I'm learning to stay in awareness, because the whole issue is being in awareness is an ongoing cumulative experience. And then I integrate my mind in that. So first, I'm no longer simply meditating. That's why they speak about liberation beyond meditation, sitting with my eyes closed and that sort of thing. And then, as I stay with this and something else begins to open, I start to experience the archetypical dimensions. So I may see apparitions, right? I may have an apparitions, okay? As apparitions start to open for me, they coming out of awareness, right? If the apparitions are coming out of mind alone, I'm having hallucinations. We spoke about that. So even I'm getting authentic. There is the Dakini in front of me right now, and she's looking at me, and then but it's and then I can feel the oneness, the none. I can feel there she is, and she and I are indivisible. I'm experiencing duality within duality at the archetypical dimension, right? And then I may start to feel that same energy in all the women that I see. I'm feeling the Dakini energy. And then in the men that I see. You with me? So at that point, the archetypical is now beginning to permeate my Nirmanakaya existence. You with me? And that is really freeing the femme. And then I may also start to just experience the arising of that potential space. So it can go this way. Nirmanakaya opens up, so they feel the light and in the flesh. Then Sambhogakaya opens up, and then Dharmakaya. But actually, it doesn't really work that way. It pops around. You follow that sequence, how non-duality unfolds naturally. Okay, but a key to this is also what this paper is about, is the importance of integrating mind into this awareness. Hope this is not too boring. You really want to get this. Yes, please.
So that when we were working on Sun and the Moon 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
my experience also is that you're associating moon with emotion.
Yes. The mind. What is our mind? Thinking, feeling, affects, sensation, memory, and fantasy, imagination. Those are the major functions of the mind. Some people describe it as 24 functions, but most, from our point of view, the 5 major functions of the mind. You with me? Mind alone, mind alone. And yet then there's this awareness that opens up, okay?
If I hold that though, I think I can think about a feeling, I can process it in my mind, and yet I can also become embodied. I can notice
You can feel a feeling right now.
Right. And yet, I probably can do that without being there. Right?
No. This is a friend. Mind is not thinking.
Okay, you're using it in a broader way.
I'm using it as American psychology uses it, the mind, and I'm using it as Dzogchen uses it. I'm using it also as the Neoplatonists use it, where they make this differentiation. Mind is my ego functions. Is it good to have one? It's really good to have one. Is it good to have the mind? Yes. The mind is these functions. And then there's awareness, right?
Yes.
Raise your hands if that's you. That is the whole story here.
Yeah, I just am having trouble associating moon with that, but I can get around that. It's just they aren't. It isn't sort of a gut response that that's moon. I understand all that you're saying about that mind.
Right.
But in these traditions, you're saying moon is mind. It's metaphor
Yes.
for
Yes.
the-
In the archetypical traditions, the various the Sambhogakaya traditions, mind is moon and the sun. Why? Because the mind does not have its own light. The essence, direct perception, as the yogis perceive it, your mind does not have its own light. All the light arises and illuminates the mind. You with me? And so the more that your mind is actually in oneness in the heart essence, then your mind becomes brighter and brighter. Swami Muktananda used to always talk and say, it is meditation itself that teaches meditation, teaches philosophy. So at times our minds can be initially very concrete, but as you meditate, your mind becomes refined because of the light of awareness. And the union of the mind and the light is wisdom, okay, and the mind. So let me continue on with this. This is the fundamental distinction that we utilize here over and over and over again. Even in Gestalt therapy, it starts off with the distinction between the analytic mind and between experience. But experience is not just affect. Many forms of people doing experience think that experience is only affect. Experience is, you experience thought, you experience affect. Experience is not the same thing as affect. One of the things that happens as we start to hold experience and hold awareness and integrate affect into this, then affect becomes less of a discharge emotion. It becomes less of dischargeableness and becomes the source of resonance. Very, very important. This brings you to a different level. For many people, affect is discharging, always having discharge. This was Freud's early genius. He understood this. You experience stuff and then you have to discharge it. You with me? And so it doesn't become a source of resonance. When you integrate your affects into awareness, affects are sources of resonance. That's why it helps you know what you're knowing, because when you look at that person, you have an affective resonance, but it doesn't have to be discharged. Say yes if you're understanding that. And that's what is called mentalization. The word mentalization means I'm able to integrate these experiences and I don't have to discharge all the time. You follow me? Someone showed me a poem, if I can find it, about kissing. A kissing poem. Okay. Anyway, find it later. And gazing. Okay. Raise your hands if this is making sense. All this understanding helps us work efficiently. Doesn't mean you have to be a little Buddhist or a little this or a little that. You take understanding that fits. Oh, this is so good. You take understanding. You don't have to join the club. You with me? You take it. However, you do want to feel some personal connections, lineages to where you got the stuff from. Because Information is always a function of a generational field, whether you like it or not. When you're reading a text, this is the prejudice I have, I am that point meeting Pamasambhava. Or if I'm reading something from JFK, I am now meeting the author, whoever that was. So the power of text is power of text. If you're not looking at it technically or as information through mind alone, you will have direct experience of that interrelatedness that is timeless. Raise your hands if that's making sense. And so when you think this way, if you don't, who cares how you think? But if you think this way, it starts opening up the world for you in a wonderful, wonderful way. And you start to live in the field of being, which liberation is. So let's continue on with this. So the mind knows dualities. And you become undefeatable. You become an undefeatable person. Mind alone, you're going to get fucked. And you're going to feel fucked. Because the mind can't metabolize everything in this world. Hi. Fucked is a very high spiritual word.
Yes,
We all know it.
must be there then.
Liberation.
That's right.
We love having you here. Thank you. So, but as you experience the sun, which is infinite, all right? The light, the blaze, then even as your body's dissolving, you're in undefeated state. That's why dissolving victimization is a very important function for all of us, right? Dissolving victimization and being organized as a victim. It doesn't mean you take shit at all. But the fire itself is the great protection, and the fire metabolizes ways we think about ourselves and the ways we remember our experience. And it helps dissolve that. And it dissolves. You dissolve it, and then you're free of that fixation. The problem with victimization is we're fixated whenever that event took place. So this is not a question of forgiving everybody from this point of view, but it is the capacity to dissolve that way of thinking of yourself. And working with trauma, now I'm blabbing along, leaving my paper, wandering off. Trauma is a very tricky thing to work with. It's the most trickiest thing, because there's a point you have to know what happened. You with me? You have to touch it. You have to know it. But you have to know it just enough that you know it. And then once you know it, you start metabolizing what you know. And then rather than it becoming an historical event, you bring it and it becomes an existential event that you then live out in the world. What was seemingly taken away, you regain existentially in this world by action in the here and now. The dilemma with trauma, it is so highly seductive, so powerful. That's why we love horror movies. We watch all kind of shit on TV and movies. You with me? Because it's so powerful, we keep going back to it and back to it. You with me? But we're having to free ourselves and regain memory. We have to regain the capacity that this is, and make it a memory and not a lived experience. And we have to actually close the door. There are many things that are great in my early life that I don't remember. If I really focus, I might be able to pull them up. But that foreclosure, Freud's word, is a really useful thing. Because one of the problems with trauma is foreclosure's fucked up. It's not foreclosed. And to try and to really get back to where we can foreclose it and no longer organizing us is really great. Say yes if you understand that. But there are certain aspects of trauma that people think that they have to experience everything completely through forever and ever and ever and ever. Trauma, and that's why Vanderkalten people, there's some form of action that has to take place in this along the way. Let's go back to our little paper. So the mind knows things, and the mind knows time. Time is really important, huh? The mind knows the past, the mind knows the present, and the mind has a sense of the future. The mind knows things, the mind knows entities, and the mind knows beings, infinite numbers of beings and things. So here's all these beings, this being and that being. All these beings are here, and I'm knowing beings. I can see entities, all these beings and all these things. Now awareness knows being directly. What? Yes, awareness knows being directly. So even as a little baby where awareness is dawning, the baby is knowing being directly. Huh? It might be through the mother's face or the body or puppy or this or lunch or whatever, but there's a thing, but awareness is always present from the very beginning, and the baby's experiencing in a very raw form the experience of being itself manifesting. The baby's in bliss. You with me? So you want to really divorce a lot of this from certain forms of spiritual thinking. You got to do 1,000 push-ups with 38 of this, and then this dawns. You follow what I'm saying? This is all totally natural. And religion is a vehicle for the experience, but it's not the experience itself. Highly prejudiced statement. And a lot of times religions get confused. They think the vehicle is it, and it's just a vehicle. The mind knows difference. I love when Skip said that today. It was the difference. But he was saying it experientially. I'm saying it more intellectually, right? The mind thinks conceptually, right? The mind feels affectively, imagines through imagery. The mind has sensation, and the mind has memory. The mind knows dualistically. Awareness knows being directly, and awareness knows the beingness of beings directly. Even here at this moment, if I focus on Karen, I can see Karen's face. I know Karen personally, but to the degree that my awareness is in union with my mind, and not just this way, both vertically and horizontally, I'm experiencing the beingness of being in her, through her. And as I experience the beingness of being in her, I'm simultaneously experiencing the beingness of being in me, right? So, being is not a being. What? Being is not the big being? Big plump being? No. Being is not a being. Then you can start to think in terms of Eastern, like Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is no thingness. You with me? Dharmakaya is not a being. But out of Dharmakaya, everything and anything arises, right? So being is not a being, but being manifests being. That's what being does. It manifests beings. Being manifests beings within being as their own being. So theologically, you start to rethink what divinity is or what God is. You start to shift the theological sense. Well, God is, but is God a big being? Or is God being itself manifesting everything and anything? How to think God, if you want to have a theological crunch on this, begins to open up differently, huh? Even Meister Hart, in his Catholic Christian thing, would say, there's God, and there's God beyond God. That's where we're going. So he was taking God as an entity, the big being, and yet beyond it is being itself manifesting everything. But then the Inquisition was after him you know? In those days, how you thought, you could wind up being cooked, tortured, even nowadays. So being itself is not an entity, not a being. Being is non-duality. Being knows the non-duality of everything and anything. Being is oneness and pervasiveness. So when you and I enter this awareness and we begin to experience the beingness of our own being, we start experiencing pervasiveness, right? You were throughout the whole room, both as an individual and yet with the differences, pervasiveness. Say yes if you guys following this. Yes. So being is openness, and use all these phrases. Being is openness. When they say sunyata, void, emptiness, the more powerful phrase, Trungpa says, and other later is actually openness, primordial openness. Being self-manifest. How does it self-manifest? As radiant light. And being is compassionate, creative resonance. So here, being is this no-thingness that is light. And light is not a thing, at least at the first manner. It later becomes physical light, but the physical light is the manifestation of the subtle light. And in the cosmological ways of understanding this, there is the light of the sun can be personified in all the suns. That can be it's manifested as that sun, and the same light is manifested as the light in me right at this moment. So there's the archetypical root manifests the physical sun, and the archetypical root manifests the sun in this body. Say yes if you're understanding that. And the same thing. So when you look at things like astrology, there's many different forms of it, and it's an attempt to read the manifestation of the elements. However, we don't need to be an astrologer to do that. But if you and I touch just enough into the archetypical dimension, we can experience that manifestation in each other. And that's what we've been trying to do these past months, right? Sometimes we often think that the Sambhogakaya level is only apparitions, the deities and angels. That is not true. The apparition is a cohesive form of the elements, but it's basically the elements arising as the light, and then all those configurations. He mentions vortexualness. One of the major qualities of this is the vortexualness. You even see it in physics. If you look at all the great planets, you see all the things are like vortexes, huh? But also at the more subtle level, it's the vortex. Like people feel that swirling. You guys, is this okay with you guys right now? Clarity on this stuff really helps. Being means duality, although being manifests duality, although being is completely non-dual. By becoming aware of awareness, we experience awareness, which is the ground of being, which is being itself. So there was some experience of the ground of being, which is being itself. You with me? Which is unborn and undying also. So we experience primordial awareness, which is the ground of beings, which is being. Awareness is being. Awareness is being knowing itself. So my awareness, primordial awareness, knows itself as me. Primordial awareness knows itself as me. That's because it's located in this embodiment, this manifestation. Say yes if you're following that. Being knows being and the beingness of all the beings. Being knows being and the beingness of all the beings. So I can look at you as an entity, and I can also gaze into you as the beingness of being. And if I do it simultaneously, if my mind and my awareness are in union, that's how I will experience the events of my life and my death. That is why the integratingness is so important. Without integration, it is completely incomplete. You can just be in these great meditations, but unless you integrate your mind and body, you would get distracted by a transcendental approach to this world. It means you can't wait to get out of here. And you will only have beatificness once you're out of here. You follow what I mean? And it's totally valid. Neti, neti, neti. Not this, not that. It is totally valid. It's very ancient. It's very monastic. And it's entirely up to you. We all have that freedom of path. There comes a point you have a freedom of path. And you may think, oh, which one is truer? It doesn't quite work that way. It's which one do I prefer? Where's my desire? What do I love? Love takes us along that path. Both are valid. Completely valid. Do you believe that? Both are completely valid. You following this? Which one do I choose? Awareness can be timeless as well as manifesting beings in time. The mind knows time, and awareness knows timelessness. So if I'm going to experience timeless in time, which Skip was talking to, and so was Elizabeth, that means simultaneously, that's the word he kept going, he was both in awareness and in his mind simultaneously. With that, time and timelessness start manifesting together. Say yes if you're following that. That's why we have to be careful how we think about ourselves. And what narrative we impose or we take into our experience. And how we think about ourselves and how we narrate ourselves to ourselves. Being knows timeless is in time, and being is timeless manifesting time. Being becomes everything and anything. Being self-manifests. It's all being manifesting itself as everything and anything. Being is no thingness. It's not a thing. That's why it's very hard to think being. We can know being. This is the catch-22. We can know being through being and awareness, being and being. It is very... Once we know being by being and being, it can infuse our mind and help us think being. But if you haven't had the experience of being or being in awareness, it is very hard to think being. You will automatically think being as a thing. And also you need a language that allows you to do this. For instance, you take some of the early Buddhist language, like Narguna's language. Well, it is and it is not. It neither was nor wasn't. And he uses this language to go around because his language at that time was very concrete. If you shift into Western philosophy, Aristotle, who was earlier, they had the understanding and the gift of potentiality. And he could work with potentiality. And boy, potentiality is not yet, but it is. Right? And so language is the house of being, and how we use language is really liberating or containing. Say, you guys follow that? And this stuff is not for everybody, though. It really isn't. This is not for everybody. Being self-manifest is everything and is anything. And to experience that, where you can feel that self-manifestation of being as everything and anything, then you will be in non-duality at that moment. At the level of mind, you'll be in duality. Simultaneously, you'll be beyond good and evil, and you'll be within the realm of good and evil simultaneously. That is really liberating, to be beyond good and evil and in good and evil simultaneously. Then you know how to operate, you with me, with the vicissitudes of this life by experiencing the manifestation of being with this face and this movement, and how to embrace it at one level and another level, undercut it and cut through it. Say yes if you understand that. Say no if you don't. Being is no thingness. Being whose characteristic is openness, self-manifestation is radiance, and light creating everything and anything. So when we start taking the light seriously, we don't just use words like display, which is a cheap word. It cheapens what you're experiencing. It makes it illusion. It is a manifestation. It is an actuality of the light. The light right here, as flesh. And to experience the light in the flesh as flesh, Skip was describing that porousness and that radiance and that bliss, right? So the body itself starts to be re-experienced when we're holding both of these. Raise the hands. You with me? Tantricness, tantrika, is this experience of mind awareness and simultaneousness. And people can do all sorts of acrobatic things and think they're little tantrics or costumes. Dakini's laugh. Tantrika, whether it's eating, with all the sensuous ornaments, is a function of mind being with awareness. And by mind, I don't mean just thinking, sensation, memory, imagination, the arts, right? You guys follow this? Being is light. Being is light. Being is light. The radiance of the light. So if I'm looking at you right now, and I'm seeing you, and knowing you, it's a function of radiance. Your being manifested is through radiance right now. It's radiance manifests everything. You are a personification of the radiance. And my awareness is radiance meeting the radiance. So I can meet the radiance in the world as radiance. Say yes if you feel that. There's a sharpness to that. It's the fire element, huh? That's why sometimes when we go through this, we have to tolerate a lot of fire, because the fires are rising and it gets stronger and stronger. So being is space and light, openness and light. It's not a thing though, huh? Being is openness and light. The light becomes energy, huh? And the energy becomes stuff. Energy becomes matter. And the nature of matter itself is being. So the nature of everything and anything is being, huh? Bored. The nature of everything and anything is being. If I feel that, I'm always relating to the beingness of being in everything and anyone. And by doing that, I am liberated, because I am in the field of being, which is openness and radiance and resonance. And like Skip was touching simultaneously, ordinariness, archetypalness, and pure potentiality. And this is a totally natural experience. And the more we think it's a givenness, and the more we think it's naturalness, then the more available it is without effort. Hi, Ulysses. Good to see you.
Sorry to jump in like this. I had technical problems.
No, we're glad you're here. Would you mind invoking the energy through the Brazilian shaman? We'll enter it with you.
Okay. Energia, energia, energia. Força,
Fossa, fossa.
Harmonia, harmonia, harmonia. Sou o poder curador de Santo Inácio de Loyola. E sua graça masculina coordena a cooperação dos nossos aliados para a vitória.
Glad to have you back with us. And that tradition of the mediums, huh? Because the mediums are working with gnosis, huh? They work with gnosis, and they have the power of invocation, the archetypes. That's what they do. Now, almost done. So the nature of matter is being, and being manifests itself in us, as our own awareness. Awareness is not a thing. Awareness is no thingness. And you and I are subjective knowingness, which is awareness. Awareness is no thingness within the thingness of mind and body. Awareness is knowingness, is openness and radiance. Radiance illuminates and is the intimate resonance with everything and anything. That's why the great compassion, the great Lama died, young Druji, would speak about it as radiance. Huh? And it would speak about Avalokiteshvara, the archetype, as radiance. Avalokiteshvara is a manifestation of Amitabha, the light. So in this way, it is not a sympathetic feeling. I wish you well. Good luck. Okay, it is the radiance of resonance that we experience, and that we gain the power of invoking that for ourselves and others, and the transmission of that resonance into each other. The light, bringing forth the light. In that way, we take as human beings the archetypical power of potentiality of the Dharmakaya, and we take the archetypical power of the archetypal energies. Huh? Dom Ignacio, he's just invoked Dom Ignacio also, the archetype of that energy. You guys follow this, what I'm saying? Okay. If you have to hold something like this at times, whatever metaphors you want to use, you just want to know what you're doing actually. If you're just wandering around doing nothing, you'll be wandering around doing nothing. You will have experiences, but they'll disappear. Our mind and understanding helps us hold. There's no such thing as a path other than our own mind's understanding of what we're doing and how we're going. You maybe think you're given a path, but you have to laugh at that a little bit. It really depends on what you do and what you take and make your own. If you make a path as a catechism, you remain a baby, and it's not quite your own. It doesn't have the power of your own invocation. You with me? You need someone else to invoke for you. But as you go into maturity, where we should be, where we are going, we take this power into our own selves. And I'm so glad Ulysses is here, because he brought that with him when he came to from Brazil here. And it became ours also. You follow what I'm saying here? So radiance illuminates as the intimate resonance with everything and anything. This intimate resonance is the great compassion. Compassion is not simply wishing goodness for everyone. Compassion is the direct resonance with the goodness of being in everyone and everything. Even monsters, you can experience the goodness in them, the beingness of being in them. And because of that oneness and the light, you have more capacity either to send the light to them, which can deconstruct that particular form. So that's why compassion is also the great protection for people in this world. It is essentially resonance, but it's actually the gift of protection. A lot of times people you hear wishing good things for people and feeling empathy for people, but they don't do shit. They just don't do shit. You know, they feel good, they have good wishes for everybody. But you don't do shit. No action. Knowledge is action. Compassion is not simply wishing goodness for everyone. Compassion is the direct resonance with the goodness of being in everyone and everything. Being is goodness. Huh? Being is goodness. To experience the beingness and being, including one's own being, is to experience the bliss of being, the bliss of existingness. Being appears and disappears as being. So being itself appears and disappears as beings. So all of us are appearing and disappearing. Steve is disappearing. That process happens, right? He's disappearing. You know? He may reappear. We don't really know. No, we don't really know. We don't really know. Being appears and disappears as being, but being remains. What does that mean? Being remains. Being neither is born nor dies. Being is. What does that mean? As my body and mind dissolve, what remains? Being remains. Being remains. Yes.
Why would you say being is goodness? Because I think it doesn't, being really doesn't have a balance of good or bad or
Being is not good and bad at the level of stuff. But being is kadig, totally pure. And that purity we can call goodness if you want to. And when you feel that purity arising in you, there's an indefeatable experience of goodness. Not righteousness, nothing to do with the superego, but isness itself at this level. Goodness. Huh? But there's no meaning to it. Yes. But there is a felt sense of all this, even if it's impossible to good. And it is an experience. Sometimes people think there's no experience with this. But actually, experience phenomenologically, and you read the Great Yoga, it is an experience. So, when you were in totality, this is not a trick question, were you totally good in goodness at that moment? It's phenomenal. One of the lamas who came here, Kunzen Dechen Lipa, he was the one who would always speak about it being total goodness, but not in terms of good and evil, but this state, this state of goodness. But it's not goodness of right or wrong, good and evil, better and best. It is like the ontological goodness of everything and anything. That's why that goodness is beyond difference. Wholeness. But I'm particularly interested, after talking to Tai Situ about this last thing, because he says, reincarnation, that little brief conversation and fun conversation, it's not redoing it. You're not coming, it's not like a redo job, And you're not coming back just to finish off things. And then we got interrupted. But he says he doesn't think about it that way. So I've been thinking about this. But then being remains. Who remains? And all these archetypes have names too. There's a who-ness that comes through all this. It's not quite, there's a dimension of impersonality. But in the profound states, there's who-ness, but has no name to it. Huh? It's all who. It's all anima. Mystic. So being is. Maybe what remains is being. Yes, please. Good to see you. Families all converged?
Yes, wonderful.
Good.
My experience is that there's also like a overflowing or a giving experience.
Yes. Generosity arises.
Huge generosity, just infinite.
The radiance, you're radiating radiance. And that's why generosity is radiance itself. Generosity is radiance itself. That's okay? Yes, please.
I wanted to share this.
Yes.
Hope Skip doesn't mind. But
Who am I?
Skip. We did a workshop on Saturday,
Uh-huh.
and I was away all last week.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a quality to his presence in that workshop that was different, and I really couldn't quite put my finger on it.
Could you speak up?
I wanted to share this experience. On Saturday, Skip and I did a workshop, and I had been gone all last week, so I didn't know about what had happened here. And anyway, but there was a quality of his presence in that workshop, and we've done this workshop together dozens of times. When you talked about the sense of generosity being a manifestation of the integration of the sun and the moon energies, he was saying all these things that we always say in the workshop, but there was an energy about them. And he was at the edge of tears as he spoke on a number of occasions in ways that had never emerged in the talking. But it didn't go to any pain. It just softened, and then it would come back up. And I'm really thinking that I got to experience the impact of his experience here last Wednesday as it had stayed with him and integrated. So it's a unique possibility to feed back to the group, because I'm not him reporting it. I'm a person who observes something that was definitely tangible, but very subtle.
Feelable, seeable, knowable. And this is happening, and it's happening for many people. I think many people are touching some fruitionalness at this point, okay? Who have been around here 2,000 years and have thousands of years. Yes, please.
I love what you just said, Lorette, because you were also integrating. You were taking that and you were doing the whole process. By absorbing him, you were taking that in, and that's all that we're talking about. So you were giving a very tangible example of all this.
And transmission. And so it's really useful when as the events open for us, they remain. If we remember them and continue to experience them, because they are both at the level of event of mind and the event of being itself. There's a simultaneous event, and our mind plays a role in holding the experience. Mind plays a role in holding. That's why embodiment is in the flesh and experiencing the resonance. Yes, Fran, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say that.
Just say it loud, hon.
Okay, my experience of this is that it's like this. There isn't anything but goodness, and generosity seems like it's too limited a word, because it's like this shattering, like tsunami of love and goodness that is like astonishing, because it's like all there is, and yet that's not my day-to-day experience, my usual experience.
Yes.
But then when I remember that, when you talk and I touch that again, it's all there is.
You have a lot of people coming to your house this week.
I do.
Okay. Now suppose you to do this deal with yourself, not us. Who cares, right? Us. Where you're gonna wake up in the morning, and just what you were saying to us and the way you were saying it, you're gonna re-invoke that
place. Invocation is a very powerful situation. Most of us feel we're dogs led around by little chains. You with me? But the power of invocation and the power of invoking through memory of what is, not just what was. It is and was simultaneously. And you practice having fun with that this weekend with all those relatives and friends and everything that brings in the state of that you're describing here very clearly. Because this is actually the real practice. You with me? This is actually it. This is the deal. This is the deal. Let me continue on here. Almost done. Being manifests many, many dimensions. Wow, does being have lots of dimensions, huh? Being manifests life as Namanakaya, ordinary life. We're sitting here with a bunch of people just sitting around, hanging around. Being manifests the appearance and disappearance of beings. Being manifests Sambhogakaya, that's just a word. The forms of light and the light of forms. I like that expression. The forms of light and the light of forms. Being always remains, since being is timeless, and timeless manifests time in time. Being manifests in time as beings. That's what I know. Being manifests in time as beings. Isn't that amazing? Being manifests in time as beings, huh? As their forms disappear, and the beingness of being remains. Being is unborn and undying. It's amazing and really useful to know that being is the source and manifests the eminent flow of lived experience. I want to read this one more time, okay? It's amazing and really useful to know that being is the source and manifests the eminent IMMANENT flow of all lived experience. Your experience, your ongoing continuous experience, even now. So all my experience is the manifestation of being itself. My experience of being is within my lived experience here and now, even if I feel fucked. But if I feel fucked, and I can open that experience, bringing forth what's implicit in it, and actually feel the radiance of the beingness of being permeating the porousness of my experience. At that moment, I feel free. I'm not contained by the experience of the circumstance or my own mind. That is self-liberation, right there. Plunk, plunk, yes.
So would you say that beingness is synonymous with the primordial field of awareness?
Beingness is the primordial field of awareness, which is multidimensional and infinite in its horizons.
And the metaphor is the sun.
The metaphor in my body, in this thing, it's the sun and the moon. And we actually see that in all the texts, all these yogic texts always speak about the sun and the moon, and and sometimes the masculine energy, the masculine female thing, which sometimes the female is the moon, sometimes female is the sun, and it seems to float around as it should. Okay? Now, but that's it. My experience is the manifestation of being itself, huh? And all the circumstances. Being is the indivisible source of our ongoing lived experience, even at this very moment. Can you grok that? Can you hold that? So we can look at our karma, at least is how I look at it, as expanding range. You with me? All our life events are me Suppose I lived every moment of my entire life in this little basement, and all these nice people and all this nice stuff. I need some range, right? No range here. So shit happens. And my range has the possibility of becoming expanded. Some of you guys have had very difficult experiences at times in your life. Probably mostly everyone. I don't see any. And those experiences, and I don't mean that everything happens for the best. I hate that way of thinking, okay? I don't. That's a moral frame. You with me? But all these experiences that people have been through in this room has been the manifestation of primordial awareness, expanding your range. Expanding the range. Like wider range. Suppose my experience of the range of bliss is Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Suppose that's my range. So singing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna or something, I have bliss, okay? Other than that, I'm a sunk dog. You with me? So I have to go sing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna all the time. It's useful up to a point, and then Hare Rama and Hare Krishna becomes a fixated distraction that limits me from the bliss of the ordinary. Range. In some lives we have a very limited range. Some lives we have a range about this wide. And sometimes it's so wide it's impossible to metabolize it at all. But I'd like you to think for a while that karma is beyond causality in the regular way, that simplistic way of thinking about cause and effect. I bit the dog, now the dog bit me. You with me? I'm here repaying bad things I did to all this group. I'm sorry, I really am. Not enough. More. I'll try more. More, please. More. I'm earning it. I'm earning my way. More, please. That's a nice superego way of looking at things. But experientially, huh? It's almost done. Where are we at here? So being manifests, Sambhogakaya, the forms of light and the light of forms, being always remains, since being is timeless. Timeless manifesting in time as time. Being manifesting in time as beings. As their forms disappear, the beingness of being remains. Oh, we did this one. So through the duality of appearance of phenomena, so through the duality of the appearance of phenomena, we can experience the non-duality of being. So through all this phenomena, we can experience the non-duality of being through duality. That is really freeing. Through Carol, I can see Carol, and if I can bring my mind into the awareness and I experience her, even at this moment, I begin experiencing non-duality through duality with her. That's really good to know and really good to do. And then I do it with really great people like Carol. And then there's some motherfuckers I know, excuse the language. And then with them, I start to do the same practice. If I only do it with Carol, what's going to happen to me? Carol! Suppose it's only Carol.
Then you have to follow her around everywhere.
Then she can become deified. You with me? And she does have the characters, doesn't she? You really look great. And she's really doing great. And she has a book coming she's doing, and she's just, so the radiance is coming through her, right? But I also then have to work it and expand my range, don't I? I have to. Or say I only extend the light to Carol. Extend the light to Carol. And Carol only extends the light to me. It's really great, right? But it becomes encapsulating. Becomes a little cult, petite cult. Almost done. So being is not a distinct phenomena from the stream of experience. Being shines through all experience, and the radiance of experience is the radiance of being. Non-dual awareness is experienced within the duality as openness, as appearance, and as interrelatedness. Sorry to take so long. Being is experienced through beings. Our own being is the doorway of being itself. Wow, your own being is the doorway to all these other beings. Isn't that something? Your own being is the doorway to being itself for other beings. Isn't that something? All those guests coming tonight to see you and eat relentlessly without any gratitude. You're a door to all those people. And look at all the teachings you've had. Look at all the blessings you've had. Throw a little guilt in there. But no, look at how much you know. Look at what you know essentially, right? You can think about that. Everybody here can think about that. If you go at it from a point of view of guilt, it disappears. If you go at a point of view from existential actuality, you own that capacity. You own the capacity. Without owning the capacity, it doesn't remain. You're given gifts that dissolve by the time you stand up from your little pillow. Mm-hmm. Unless you own it and make it your own. A boldness is necessary. It's not going to last forever, right, what we're doing. It's really been heavy. You want to own and own the givenness. So gratitude is really powerful. Gratitude sustains everything. So whatever we've been given, you want to own that. It's really important, that in-owning process. If you have false humility and you think you're not good enough and all that stuff, then you're still waiting for a Godot. And then you die, and then you come back to have more range. Almost done. Being shines through all experience, and the radiance of experience is the radiance of being. Non-dual awareness is experienced within duality as openness, as appearance, and as interrelatedness. Being is experienced through beings. Our own being is a doorway of being itself. Your being, my being, is a doorway both for yourself and for other beings. The indivisibility of being manifests both as manifested phenomena and as the knower of the phenomena. This being is manifested in you, as awareness, as pure awareness. Being is manifests as phenomena, as the embodiment as flesh. All experience is the self-manifestation of primordial awareness. Being is the ground of all beings. Being is primordial awareness. The self-manifestation is eminence. That's why it's eminent. Emanation. Eminence emanates. All experience is the self-manifestation of primordial non-duality as duality. Being manifests being within beings. Being is magical because being is beyond causality. All this is happening no matter what. See this blabbing? It's happening no matter what. Carol gazing into me is happening no matter what. And to experience this from a non-causal point of view, is liberation. To feel free of causality and just stay with the phenomena manifesting itself is really a great ride. You feel the soaringness. As soon as you can go beyond causality. A lot of the early teachings are all caught in causality. You with me? But there's a point you take causality and disband it. A-okay. Being manifests being within beings. Being is magical because it's beyond causality. Non-dual awareness and dualistic mind are intertwined. And so we can experientially bring our mind into this awareness continuum. That's the theme of today. Psychology cannot be extracted from being. It's not something different than being. It is being itself manifesting as a thought. It's being manifesting itself as hatred. It's being manifesting itself as disgust. As fear. Subjectivity is primordial awareness manifesting within being as a being. So all the subjects, all the subjectivity is not illusionary. You with me? As some would have you think. It is primordial awareness manifesting within a being as being itself. So when I feel into Carol's subjectivity, I'm experiencing pure being itself. And at that moment, I start arising in light of that experience, right here at hand. Primordial awareness is being manifesting as subjectivity within the being of beings. Subjectivity is the openness of being itself in everything and anything. Being is openness. Being is potentiality, pure potentiality. Human beings are intertwining of being within a being. There's this intimacy of being within a being, The intertwining of awareness and mind. When mind and awareness are in oneness, then the knower knows the beingness of being through a being and through all the beings. The person can know duality within non-duality and non-duality within duality. A human being is the intertwining of thingness and no-thingness. That's why it's hard. It's this intertwining of thingness and no-thingness. And we confuse it a lot. The intertwining of openness and thingness. So here we are. Let's see where we're at right now. Where are you at? I want to talk experientially right now. What's happening?
I'm being.
What's it
Yeah.
like for you being?
Well, I feel it's glorious.
It is glorious, huh?
Yes.
Let's just sit with that. We'll sit with that with you. And we'll lean into her. We'll lean into you. So by leaning into her, I feel what she's describing. I hear it and I experience simultaneously. And it radiates within me now. No one owns this. Nobody owns it, right? Nobody owns it. Nolo, c'est moi. No culture, no tradition owns it.
And sharing it expands it.
Actually, that sharing it expands it. That is why to think you have to contain it, or you're going to lose it. There's a certain point that's true, but actually, the sharing it, the extension of it, expands it, because it is the sun. It is the sun. If I'm doing it from my mind alone, and I'm doing this mentally, I'm going to start feeling depletion, because it doesn't have its own light. But if I'm experiencing it, my heart is pulsating the energy, then
it just keeps arising and coming through us. Thank you so much. And what's happening for you today as we explore the to the lady next to you, to the moon, to the moon, sun conjunctio, the mysterious conjunctio.
Well, in the moment, I also feel the expansive range of truly being and beingness. And then I'm aware of, through all the experiences of my life, there's been this thread of beingness, of being, that I'm beginning to realize is the thread of resilience.
Yes. Has
And
being saved you, love? At times?
being has saved me from the moment I was born. and somehow knowing that even in the times I was caught in the dualistic projections onto the experience, there was a part of me that always knew that. And that's what saved me. Yes.
Yeah. So even in the very present moment, being is sustaining life and the vitality of the energy,
Yes.
the energy that Ulysses was bringing forth. I mean,
And
yes, please.
And actually, suffering is being separate from beingness.
Yes, suffering that's why being in mind alone brings unbearable suffering to everyone
Yes.
and everything,
Yes.
no matter what their state, to be in mind alone.
Yes.
And that really is true. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and I loved what took place for you also. And this isn't just the event, this is what's happening in our little seminar. It's unfolding for all of us in our own way. Okay? Next person.
I am so aware of the power of the group today, more so than I've been for a long time, probably because I won't be here personally. But I've gone on from Skip having his experience, then that so much being picked up by Lorette, and then of course Lorette's sharing of that was picked up by me, and then I saw it being picked up by others, and it's expanding and expanding, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to share it with clients this afternoon, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's fantastic.
Beautifully described. So happy for you that you're going on your vacation to your beautiful island, and we know that our connection is non-local. No question about that.
Right.
And it's at the timeless in time. And it's not just words. We know that and know that directly with you. And we love how you articulate your experience. One of the amazing things about Steve is whatever he articulates, it's always the field. You with me? And we were talking last time about the Heideggerian mood. We talked Heideggerian mood. And that mood of Steve is so close to the sun. You with me? It always just comes through him. Matter if there's shit or not shit, whatever it is, that mood, which is the direct manifestation of the sun, comes through you so directly for all of us. Thank you. Next person, what's happening?
It's a little hard to talk.
We love having you here.
I love being here. I'm so curious, what did Ulysses say?
Ulysses, what did you say? Come sit in front of Ulysses over here.
Okay.
That's him. I want you to know Ulysses.
Okay.
She has shamanistic qualities, this person. Sit down. You meet a person who has shamanistic
Hi.
Ulysses, and your name is?
Mariel.
Mariel. What did you say, Ulysses? In the beginning.
Your invocation.
You got to you got to talk. You're on,
Unmute.
unmute. Unmute. No. Oops, sorry. Unmute. You're muting. Okay, great. Thanks. What? She wants to know, what did you say? Can you say it again and tell her what it means?
You're still muted.
Unmute.
Maybe he needs to hear it through the mic.
Oh,
Can you help?
can you
Laura, can you help
unmute?
him unmute him? She's gonna unmute it. 1 second. Okay.
Yeah, you're not
Sorry.
muted, Ulysses. We should be able to hear you.
You should be able to hear you, love.
Maybe your
Can you talk?
microphone's not
Talk.
working.
Talk.
He may need to unmute too. We can't hear you. Then hold up a sign.
Not meant to be.
Well,
That's okay.
okay.
He was talking about energy. He gave an invocation of the energy from the tradition of Brazil,
Uh-huh.
and then he started invoking the energy as the goddess, the feminine. And then he started using the Joao de Deus. He also started invoking from the center, Abadinia, the center there, Dom Ignacio. And Dom Ignacio is one of the great healing energies. Did you feel that when you did that?
Yeah, so when he was speaking, sort of right when he finished, I just felt this almost like a 2x4 of energy coming in through my right side. And it was so intense that it felt like almost like I had a stroke. Like the right side of my body was almost paralyzed. And like lifted up, and like in a way, like it felt like my right side of my face was like smiling, but my left wasn't. And so then I went into this like crazy meditative space with just so much expansiveness. And I mean, I just went so deep, and it was funny when you said to Steve, I think that you disappeared, and I was like, oh, I realized I woke up a little bit, and I was like, I'm just completely left. And I disappeared almost completely. But it was just so powerful that I was almost distracted with wanting to know what he said, and wanting to know who came in or what came in, and what I was, digesting, I guess you could say, what was coming in.
Totally cool. And that's your shamanistic dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was meeting that generation. His grandfather was a shaman,
Mm.
a Brazilian medium.
Mm-hmm.
Medium-like quality which you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the bringing in a particular person thing. So great.
It was really cool.
Here, because he usually teaches at the university at this time, but they're
Oh,
on
wow.
strike here in Brazil. We love having him.
Well, it was so neat because I didn't know what he said, but if what it was so powerful that it was so neat. The invocation really worked. I mean, it felt it really. So that'd be neat. Yeah. Thank you for explaining. I'm sorry that I couldn't. Yeah. Thank you.
Ulysses. Did you hear? Did you hear what she said? Okay. Great. But no speech. We'll have to work on this. We love hearing from you.
Oh.
His end. Yeah, the microphone is going on. It's not
Okay.
coming through our speakers.
That we're going to pass
Yeah.
to Jan.
You can also type. You can chat.
That's
to
okay.
us
That's
through
okay.
the
Yes,
feature.
Jan, what's happening for you?
Then I woke up this morning experiencing heaven on earth, and and then it became just like a shift into it. And so when people were talking here about simultaneity, what has happened is that that there's not like anything I have to do. It's just here, and it's all about being love and being loved and gratitude.
Thank you. So we're going to pass the mic back. It's getting about this time. Sorry, guys. We'll meet next week. This Saturday we will not.
Welcome. This Saturday will not have Dakini Day. This Saturday, so we're not going to have Dakini Day because a lot of people are going to be gone. Friday morning we'll have meditation. Friday morning. It's so good to have Ulysses back here with us. Yeah, Friday we will have Friday morning. We'll meet next week, and we love what's happening in our little seminar, our little group, and we're holding this awareness with both fun and seriousness. A kind of seriousness, not deadly serious, but here and now. Let's extend to our friends on the internet. Glad to see you guys. Let's extend to each other here. And also, if people want to, we can give an extra month. If you want to write something, but it should have some thought behind it. It's not just to put something in, right? That won't work. But if you want to write something because you want to articulate your experience through the written word and your understanding through the written word. So we'll have another month, and then we'll put it on the volumes on the internet. Great. Anybody else want to say anything else as we end up? Oh, we're thinking about this. The possibility on Inauguration Day, for those who... I sent a letter to John Drone saying about the bed, and then secondly about the possibility that we might come up as a group different times. You don't have to come up as a group, but if you wanted to, because I know Lama Norla is having trouble traveling, and just also time, things like that. So if you want to go up as a group, we can either go up to when there's nothing going on, or we could actually go up and have our own retreat there, because there's a lot of really fantastic energy in this magnificent temple and monastery. And now you don't have to stay at the monastery because there's a Franciscan monastery that's great. It's very private rooms, bathrooms, martinis at 5 o'clock, typical Franciscan thing. Or you could stay at one of the hotels there. But it's financially possible. And so think about that and let me know if we wanted to go up. You don't have to be a Buddhist to do this, but it's a really great place. And Lama Nola would probably give some transmission, but we don't want to be a burden to them. We don't want them to have a whole thing. You know what I mean? They work themselves to death there. So, but it's a great place. There's lots of energy, and we can either do our own thing, or maybe we'll have Lama Nola give us some teachings or transmissions. But a place to hang out. Okay. I'm thinking of Inauguration Day. Like, if we leave on a Thursday, it's a Friday, so people go up on Thursday, be there Friday, focus energy on Washington, D.C., and on El Presidente, you with me? And then come back whenever you want to. It's very interesting just talking to my beloved son. I don't have that much because he's at Big Sur right now, but he did a little further looking into Trump's chart. And Trump is now changing from being the Rahu, which is the wild quasi, and he's entering into the Guru Jupiterian now thing right about now. So it's it's very powerful. It's always powerful in this guy's chart. So it's just interesting. It could mean nothing, or it could mean something. But the Guru is where there's more revelation of what actually is in the thing. We'll see what happens. I'm going to talk with him when he gets back from Big Sur this weekend. Yes?
The 21st is the Million Women's March.
Okay. What, is that a Saturday or Wednesday? When? Okay, that's a big thing then. I don't think we should do that then with that. No, it's not. Thank you. It's not going to work out then. No, you don't want to miss that. Okay. Thank you so much. It appears and disappears. Or another time, but we won't do it for the inauguration. Good to see you guys. You guys look bright and beautiful. We love seeing you. This is the shaman person.
Hi. That was so cool. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You guys are going to meet sometime. I know you're going to meet. There's no question in my mind.
Going at the end of June with a big
Oh,
group
wow.
down to Iowa.
Oh, cool. Well, that would be amazing.
So how
He was our translator. For years, John of God would translate here on Friday mornings. John of God would speak, and he was the translator. And then we all went there together to John. And Joao wanted us to have a center here with to do that here. We decided not to because it's not democratic enough. Ulysses, thank you. Hey, why don't you email me when you might be free, Friday or over the weekend, or Thanksgiving Day, and we can get together and have a little chat. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Anna. Bye, Kathy.
Thanks for that announcement.